Hey everybody, Harry here. Just bringing in one more episode here of Harry and Jen Do Horror with Friends. We're doing something special this time around. So Jen and I have decided that we wanted to tackle the new Scream films, Scream 5 and 6 from 2022 and 2023 respectively. But we felt like we wouldn't really be serving those movies if we didn't talk a little bit about Scream 96. And so we are doing our first ever context episode this month where we talk about Scream 96 in service of our eventual discussions on the new Scream films. So looking forward to this new style of episode, this new purpose that we're going for here. And we're hoping that y'all enjoy our analysis of this classic horror film, this classic piece of 90s nostalgia as well. As always, y'all, please hop on to your pod streamers of choice. Give us ratings and reviews and things. Share this show with your horror-obsessed friends. We would love to find a new and wider audience with things as we continue into 2024. All right, y'all, that is all that I have for you. Let's talk about Scream.
I was like watching the movie being like, I was like, this is stupid. This is stupid. This is stupid. This is stupid. Oh, fuck. This is smart.
This is
and I am a tattoo artist, and that's all I got tonight. I usually say what I'm drinking. I'm drinking orange juice and bourbon, which I did not measure out.
Otherwise known as a...
Oh, God.
Bocce ball? I think that's amaretto. Wait, what's it called?
It's called a whiskey bobo.
Yes.
Are you serious?
No.
Oh my God. I haven't even had that much to drink, and I am apparently very gullible.
No, sorry. That's a ridiculous name.
I was putting Kate on the spot because she owns a bar and is a bartender and all that stuff.
Oh,
which I'm sure we'll get to in a second.
Yeah.
All right, awesome.
Well, now I won't be saying that.
Right.
I mean, Kate, do you want to go next then?
Yes, I do. My name is Kate Conroy. I am the owner of the Rhine House in Ithaca. And what else?
Just anything. Like,
That's
what's
how
on
I
your
felt
mind
too
right
today.
now?
Nothing really. My mind is, I've been, in and out of disassociating all day from jumping from work, kid stuff. So this is helping. I'm having a vodka blackberry. What was that seltzer that I stole?
It's a
orange juice.
Blackberry
Oh, wait, it's right in front of me.
I didn't want to tell you.
Thanks. That was nice. A blackberry mango seltzer vodka orange juice.
That's many flavors.
Yes, it is.
Manifold flavors.
That's why I couldn't
Is it too
deliver.
many? Is it too many flavors?
It's perfect. It's
Okay, that's
not
good.
enough flavors.
Were you about to
really.
apologize what if she had been like, yes, that's actually too many
it's
flavors?
I mean, I would dump it out, but if we don't have you make something else.
It's okay. I'll suffer through
There's
it.
not a lot of options,
Cool.
though.
I'm Harry Nichols. I'm an English teacher. I teach English 11 and AP Lit for anybody who gives a shit. Who cares what
In case
subjects
people
I
want to
teach?
sign up for your classes.
That's right. Yeah, I'm also a singer-songwriter and amateur podcaster, apparently, as we now see. We are talking to Kate about Scream this week, right? And it's a bit of, so we're trying something new where we mostly in this podcast try to focus on current horror, and we wanted to do the most recent Scream movies, and so we said we should probably go back and do some context, right? So this is kind of like a context episode looking at the OG Scream. Before we get into
Epic.
it, Kate, can I ask you, what is your experience with the horror genre? How are you vibing on that?
My biggest experience is I dated someone once who was super duper duper into horror.
Okay.
the drummer from Candy Pants.
Oh, we're dropping names.
No big deal. But he was really big into like slasher, like kind of parody, like huge satire kind of slasher films, but also any original like some of the remakes that were happening. Like I'm trying to think of something off the top of my head, like The Ring. Any sort of like Asian
those
original.
remakes. Oh, but the originals.
Okay.
The total original, yeah.
Okay.
So like real spooky things like that.
Yeah.
I dig. Other than that, my only horror claim to fame is that I grew up in Haddonfield, New Jersey. So
That's awesome.
A lot of horror stuff based in around New Jersey and that kind of
Do you think is there something about New Jersey that
I don't.
like is it a Jersey thing?
Well, they have weird New Jersey. Also, I'm from New Jersey too.
Oh, okay. All right. This makes sense now. I don't know if it's a New Jersey thing, but there's a lot, I think a lot of cool stuff comes out of the minds of people from New Jersey. And so they pull, I lived near a Crystal Lake. There's a town next door to me called Voorhees, so everything gets sort of, pulled from that.
So cool.
Yeah.
I love that, man.
And there's a monster convention that happens in like Cherry Hill, I think, or there used to be like that area,
Right.
South Jersey. So I feel like a lot of horror
A
stuff
lot of
in
people
Jersey.
into, there was some weird, it's
Yeah.
growing up with are you from South Jersey or?
No, I'm from North Jersey.
Not to turn this into a New Jersey podcast,
this
which
is
I
fine.
want to do really badly.
Harry and Jen do New Jersey with friends.
So you probably didn't grow up with the Jersey Devil stories.
Oh no, I did.
You did.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
I know that's sort of in the South area, the Pine Barrens. The Jersey Devil was scary as hell.
It's kind of like everywhere. I don't know. I mean, we were like, oh, we're far away from it, but have you heard?
But you can still get here because it's within the borders of
Yeah,
New Jersey.
he has wings in some pictures. So
Yeah. So some freaky stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So New Jersey
Jersey's freaky.
has primed you for
Yes.
for participating in this podcast.
100%.
Is what I'm hearing.
It's-
okay.
yeah.
Great. So we're talking about Scream from 1996 once again. Kate, can you summarize the movie for us?
Man, this is a tough movie to summarize.
Yes, it is.
yeah, it really is.
It doesn't really follow the most. I mean, I guess it is sort of linear, but so. Can I talk about the opening scene really quick?
Please.
Okay.
Yes.
The opening scene, an absolutely brutal opening scene, aggressive, scary, intense slasher stuff, a very 90s Drew Barrymore. Totally
Very nice.
awesome. But really the main point being the protagonist is a young girl trying to figure stuff out after her mother was brutally murdered by, we're not sure who at 1st. Then we kind of find out, as the movie goes on, that it's part of the motives for the
Right.
the ghost face killer to be doing what they are doing. It's just a slasher film that follows the story of a bunch of snarky teens who are smart enough to not be the damsels in distress or whatever, but they're they sort of teach us the rules of the movie as they go,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
everything unfolds like that.
So that I think that's a really important thing to consider in the summary is that it is a horror movie, right? It's a slasher movie about slasher
Yes,
movies.
yeah.
Very much
Yeah.
intentional in that way, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like very meta.
Yeah.
It's like a send off of all the horror tropes. It has every single thing in it.
Yeah.
But more interesting because the victims they're not really scared right away. They think it's a joke. They're like, come on, yeah.
Yeah, like they
And
think
they
it's their
fight.
friends. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And worth mentioning also, we're not going to cover all of the screams in our discussion. There are 6 of them.
This is my life's work.
But it seems like as far as meta commentary is concerned, each subsequent Scream has tried to one up the previous one as far as meta commentary.
Or do something different with if it's technology or I don't know,
Yeah.
involved with the meta
Yeah.
aspect of it.
Yeah. But always winking at
Yes.
the previous
yeah.
ones.
Oh,
and,
yes.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So I think that's you kind of have to take that into consideration when you think about what the movie's really about thematically,
Yes.
you know.
I think that's why it's hard to I think that's why it was hard for me to like
So this was
analyze
hard for
it. No, I mean, I think because it is meta that it was like there were so many different parts I wanted to do, but I was like, fuck, Jen, just like pick a theme.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
So what did you go? Should we dig in there? What did you go with?
The analysis time?
Yeah, sure.
All right, I got to pull up my notes. I kind of, ignoring some of the meta aspects of it, that's how I kind of like did the analysis. I was thinking of it like overcoming trauma.
Okay.
So like and mainly Sydney's arc. So like in the beginning of the movie, she feels a little bit more passive, and you can really feel the sadness that she like still feels like the grief about her mother. And then like as the movie progresses, we see her becoming a little bit less passive, and then especially like with the party scene where like there's all the kids and she starts fighting back. I put again, my notes are not great, that she's fighting back, becoming less passive, and almost mirroring Jamie Lee Curtis from Halloween, which is on the TV, which a lot of those things were being mirrored in that moment.
Yeah.
But Jamie Lee Curtis was one of the first final girls to fight back, and so Sydney
I
is
think
fighting
arguably
back.
the first, wouldn't
I
we
think
say?
that's.
Couldn't we say, like,
I know.
Halloween is
I didn't
like
want to
the
say it just in case it
seminal-
was wrong.
No, I think that's right.
And that's what they were watching at the
Yes.
party, right?
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
They're watching
Yeah.
So I think
Halloween.
it was like kind of like making Sydney that new
Right.
badass final girl. Although technically, I was trying to figure out, are there two final girls? Because Gail is there.
You count Gail?
I don't count
I
Gail
don't
because
count
she's
Gail
such
either.
a bitch. But like, I read some articles where people were arguing that Gail was like a second final girl. I couldn't see it, but people said it. So
I don't
put that
get it.
there.
She not really the target of any of the
No.
murders. She's just kind
And
of
she doesn't
there
have
making
trauma.
it worse. Yeah.
I don't. Yeah.
She's got an okay arc of like learning about, other people have feelings.
is
That's true.
Weird.
That's
Okay, I'm not
true.
trying to stick up for her,
That's
don't.
true.
Yeah, I don't want to shit all over Gail either. Especially like,
But she fat shames,
well,
which
sure.
is a very 90s
was the
thing.
90s.
I
It
know.
It was the 90s, yeah.
And she played Friends, and that was the whole fat shamey thing. Whatever. I could go on a tangent
Sure.
about her, but yeah. So yeah.
Nice. So you're feeling like it's sort of like a broad strokes about overcoming trauma.
Yeah. Very
about-
broad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Kate, what do you think?
I was kind of thinking about it in terms of myself in that time frame and like how like just sort of like that mid 90s, like what that was like for kids, ages kind of like 15, to 17, like
Yes, tell us, what was that like?
it was, yes, a very strange time. We had a house phone only. Yeah, like, I mean, I was 15. I was home alone a lot, Most
Okay.
of my friends were home alone a lot, You'd have your friends over maybe here and there, but like,
Yeah.
this movie hit in a very scary way at that age because you're like, whoa, like, I'm home alone a ton. Like, this could happen, and like, what would I do? And of course I would
Sure.
fight, but yeah, so I guess I was thinking thematically more like, how violence in movies and how it's easy to, blame teens and their behavior and everything off of media and the stuff that they see in the movies. And yet we were all left to our own devices then. So like,
Yeah.
shut up, what do you. So yeah, that was my big pull.
So like, I'm glad that you're also feeling like this is a movie that's like a little bit like talking about like teens and teen culture. I wonder, where do you feel like the movie settles on that? Like, is it blaming teens for this stuff? Is it
Oh, that's a good question.
different?
That is a
Either of
good
you.
question.
I don't think it's, I mean, even though there's a great arc with trauma, there's like some empowering female characters in the end, they're triumphant and that sort of thing. I do think that the overall thing is that teens are kind of dumb.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
and this is, we know this is a universal truth. Sorry, no offense. I recently alerted my students that this exists, so I'm hoping that none of them
No
are like,
offense, teens.
I was like, who are you saying that to?
listen, you're all dumb. No.
But they're also in the movie, they're acting in the way that I think a lot of teens act, which is that you do know everything and you can handle stuff on your own.
Right.
It's like you know everything, but you know nothing at all. Like
Sure.
it's like that combination of like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. It's like there's like a cliche about like, you know that you're like an adult when you realize how little you actually know about life, right? Like that's like, so like when you're stuck in your teen years and you feel like you have a grip on things, that's like when you know you're like truly immature. My question is, so Matthew Lillard's tongue is featured.
tongue?
Yeah, I said his tongue.
Okay, I just
It's featured a
wanted to
lot
make
in
sure.
this movie.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
was that a quintessential teen expression? Like, I feel like I don't see teens doing that anymore.
They're not being like,
They're not like, ah.
Miley Cyrus
what's
was.
that? I think that's from What's
Is she
Up.
But that
normal,
was much
though?
later. No. But in the 90s, I guess it was kind of like, would you, God, I'm trying to think, like, when would you do that?
No, what was that commercial? It was like, what's that?
Yeah, the "Was Up" commercial.
What
yeah,
was
I don't know what
that?
it was for,
Yeah.
though.
Me neither.
it was a Budweiser commercial.
Really?
Yeah.
With the frogs? Or was that Budweiser?
I think it was the campaign. It was the campaign
Not
after
sponsored by Budweiser.
Budweiser, right? It was the campaign after that, and it was just a bunch of like teenagers like, "What's that?" And it was parodied in Scary Movie, parodying
Yes.
Scream,
Yes.
which like, oh man, we're full circle now.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's the most meta conversation
The
we've
most
had
meta-
on this podcast.
That's right. That's right.
But I also feel like, and I don't know if this is just a 90s thing, I did not do any extra research on this, but like the friend group structure in like 90s style things, always the same. It's like
Yeah.
the brooding guy, the wild guy,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
the nerdy guy who knows too much for his own good.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
then
yeah.
there's like the sexy girl,
Yes.
and then the mousy girl.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It's
They're-
like,
They're
yeah.
all cut in that sort of, yeah.
And you're
I-
like, why are you guys all friends? How did this
Yes.
happen?
Why are they? I was like, are they popular? Are they not popular? What's happening? Yeah.
Are
Yeah.
they trying to, you think that evolved just because people were trying to like attract the most different people to those movies? Like, you feel like that's where that came from?
feel like it's a horror trope to have like the different characters. Like you
Yeah.
have the slutty
The
one,
ditzy
you have
girl.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, the smart
The
one,
smart one.
But I feel like it goes back further than that. I feel like it's like I think of like one of the earliest movies that I know of that really represents that with like The Breakfast Club.
I was
and, like
thinking
those
that,
like
yeah.
80s movies where like they really tried to like establish these tropes for teenagers.
like make each teenager a stereotype.
Yeah, kind
Right.
of.
And you have your group, and that's your group.
Kind of, yeah. No, it's definitely interesting. So, I wrote kind of a lot.
All right, go for it. We
Let's
got to
hear
hear
it.
your analysis.
So my analysis of Scream. Bear with me because I've never tried to like. I have like a whole outline here that I want to talk about, and I've never.
I
tried
can
to
see
do this
Harry's notes,
before.
and it's like what 2-3 pages.
It's 3 pages.
That's
Yeah,
insane.
I have 3 pages.
I
And
love
I
this.
think
That's
I want to
exciting.
I want to flesh it out and turn it into like an actual essay eventually. But so I think my thinking is very much along the lines of Kate's. Right, I had a lot of those like same antenna up about like teens and youth culture and stuff. I think there's a lot in this movie that's about that, and specifically, I think that this movie subverts the conservative idea that youth are falling into sort of like a hedonistic moral relativism. Like I feel like there's been this like long-standing perception among adults and especially conservative adults that like youth culture is becoming increasingly depraved. Do y'all feel, is that a thing
I mean,
that
I
you've
feel like
observed
that's
as well?
been a thing always.
I don't think it's been always.
I mean, there was like the Satanic Panic back in the day, and like
You mean like everyone, like as they age, each generation thinks the
That's what I
younger
mean,
generation
yeah.
is like crazier than they were?
That's part of it, but I think that since the 20th century, I think older generations to some extent have always complained about younger generations.
Yeah.
But I think since the 20th century specifically, there has been a concern about like youth culture as being corrupt.
Yeah.
okay, like video games and like the movies they
Sure,
watch and
all
stuff
that
like
stuff.
that.
Yeah, I have some examples.
Okay.
I went looking as early as I could find. I didn't have a ton of time to like research this. But like, yeah, so some claims of youth moral depravity include, right, moral panics about rock and roll in the late 40s and 50s, Comic books in the 1950s were pinned
That's true.
as being like corrupting the youth. There's a whole book called Seduction of the Innocent about this, where this psychologist tried to claim that kids in a juvenile facility were like having their brains rotted by comic books.
Oh my God.
Causing, there was a panic about illegitimacy, quote unquote, in the 1940s, unwed mothers. There was the rock porn hearings of the 1980s. Y'all hear about this? Tipper Gore versus
Dee Snider, Twisted Sister. Yep, that's why we have parental advisory on
That's
things.
right. Blaming depraved lyrics for like youth moral decay, claiming that that's where it comes.
Censorship,
Yeah. So like with all these things, it's actually about something else, right? It's with comics and illegitimacy, it's a response to changes in the nuclear family following World War II. With rock porn, there was like a Reaganistic reaction to like similar changes, partially in response to perceived teen pregnancy spikes, but not actually once you look at that, right? And then rock and roll was the panic about that was a response to like the pre-civil rights racial movements that were going on, right? So I think that Scream '96 presents depictions of morally depraved youth that commit atrocities, but not without motive or reason, but motivated by like puritanical misogyny or like fear of female sexuality. I think that's why the kids do these things in this movie, right? In this way, the monster of the film is not the abandonment of conservative values, but the conservative values themselves. Like that's my big take on that. Is everybody bored?
No, I want to hear more. We're just waiting.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Right. So and I don't have any sources for this, but I would argue that like all of those moral panics that I've talked about were only like amped up by like the 90s. Like this is just from my own personal experience. Like there was just this real sense of like a general critique, thanks to media propaganda surrounding the war on drugs, that like that it wasn't like it was less focused on a specific phenomenon and just like more pervasive as a general understanding that like the youth are like who knows with these kids these days, right? Which is a sentiment that's repeated throughout the movie, I think, by a couple of people. First of all, any reactions, any thoughts?
Yeah,
on
I'm thinking.
that?
I totally agree, especially with like, it's funny when you said it about like women and sexuality in the movie. It kind of, I guess, it sort of flew over my head a little bit how much of the movie is focused on the mother's sexual
Behaviors,
encounters, and then Sydney's, right? Like
Right.
she's, sort of holding, I don't want to say holding back, but she's, saying no for a long time.
Right.
And then suddenly, she says
yes.
yes.
She's like,
and
yeah.
then she's, this badass,
Right,
like,
right.
But
whatever.
the girls call her, there's a lot of slut shaming.
Totally.
Yeah.
Which I didn't, it's there, but like, it didn't stand out to me as much either, and it probably should have. But like, like they're slut shaming her in the bathroom. They're calling her mom a slut. Like, even
There's like when there's that scene in the bathroom where there's this graffiti. It's like the most boomer graffiti. It's like Carolyn is fast or something. And like, you know what I mean?
yeah,
It's like, Wes, did you think that that's how teenagers talk?
yeah. You're like the 50-year-old writer was like, here we go, like back in the 90s, like we're gonna write this, and it's like no,
I'm telling you,
they say fast.
they say fast. That's what the kids are talking about these days. I don't know why this person has been smoking for 30 years in my
Yeah,
head.
and I should have said older than 50, I realized.
Right,
'cause
right.
That's like 10 years away from me, so. But yeah, I feel like there's another moment too. Well, I guess Rose McGowan is like the slutty one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
the,
she's
the
fast.
easy one.
There's a lot.
Yeah,
And I
she's
mean,
fast,
not to like, but I mean, Drew Barrymore, the way she was talking on the phone to
Oh,
that
wait a
guy
minute, wait. I'm
and
gonna get
also
there.
saying she didn't
with
have a
Steve
boyfriend.
on the way over,
She was
flirty.
She
Listen,
was.
I'm
yeah.
gonna get there. All right. So
Here we go.
let's talk about the immoral youth in Scream.
Yeah.
Okay, this idea that the youth in Scream represent this sort of like hedonistic, devolved moral group, right? When Billy's arrested the first time, Sheriff Burke invokes the idea by saying to Sidney, years ago I would have said there's no way a kid could have done this, but these days I'm not so sure. And Principal Henry Winkler,
Unchained.
like, so what? Right, totally unchained.
His character.
He goes on a similar tirade when he like expels those two pranksters for like donning the
yes,
masks.
yeah.
It was this like,
But he's like
sick
in the
fucking
office
kid.
being
Oh
like,
my god, I
so
know.
Yeah,
weird.
he's wearing the mask, and also he's like, why is he like touching?
He's, like, threatening
Sydney's
them.
face,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
caressing it when she goes in for
Yeah.
her. Like, what's happening with him? Yeah,
Yeah. So if a lot of the adults are accusing kids of being immoral and depraved, I think a lot of the kids actually, to be fair, are kind of doing that. You've got the pranksters who like this poor woman has just been very close to a murder, and they're putting on the mask of the killer and running through the halls. Like that's fucked up.
that is
right?
fucked up.
That's fucked up. In my current educator DASA era brain, I'm like, oh shit, like those kids gotta go.
Yeah, suspended.
Yeah. Billy's awful get over your dead mom so we can fuck speech.
Yeah, it's been a year.
Yeah, and he's like,
Aren't you over it yet?
My parents split up, and I'm over it. What?
Christ,
Classic.
fucking bite.
That's honestly some classic shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that is though. Like, in that moment, it was like, oh yeah, that's what a dumb teenage guy would say just to like get laid.
Totally.
Like he's
100%.
not bright.
100%.
Oh, it's consistent with my experience of teenage boys
Yeah.
for sure, but it's still like it's depraved. Like it's,
Oh, yeah,
it's pretty
it
fucked
is.
up. Yeah. Later, when at the party, someone calls to let them know that Henry Winkler is dead.
Oh, and they all run to
and
go
they like
see
run like
it.
let's go
Football
see
post.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Like
They almost hit Dewey and
Yeah, they-
Gail on
yeah.
the way there to
they
see
drunkenly
this.
careen away, and absolutely, to witness the carnage before it gets cleaned up is what they say, and like that's
ins-
crazy.
Yeah, that's dark.
Right? So in the establishing shot for that climactic party sequence, we have this heavy-handed soundtrack choice, which I'm certainly going to insert here.
Say a prayer for the youth of America. God bless our youth, America.
With the lyrics say a prayer for the youth of America, performed by the band Bird Brain, which
Yeah, I never heard of them,
Never
but
heard of
I
that before.
Shazammed it when it was on.
it's great. It's a cool song though. It's
is.
actually really good. Yeah. I think it's foreshadowing, setting the scene for some kind of message on this, like judgment is going to be passed in this sequence on the youth of America in a way. And everything up to this point seems to fall perfectly in line with that conservative reactionism, right? That whole idea that kids are
Yeah.
terrible, right? Concurrently, Scream is also developing a commentary about women's sexuality, right? What did y'all pick up concerning women's sexuality?
I will say the first thing that struck me, like literally in the beginning of the movie, was Drew Barrymore's, we had just touched on her sort of like flirty nature with this stranger on the phone, and she's Drew Barrymore, right? Like she's hot.
Yeah.
And then once she's slashed, it cuts to Sydney on the computer, and she's wearing this
yes.
like granny nightgown
yeah.
and a high ponytail.
Yep.
And it feels very like, Madonna whore. Or
Yeah.
Yes.
Such a good-
Yeah,
such a
the
good
vir-
call.
it's
Yeah.
like the two Marys, like the Virgin Mary
Exactly.
and then like Mary
And it-
Magdalene. Yeah,
Totally.
yeah, that's very true. I didn't even catch that.
That's super cool, and I love religious shit. So yeah, I'm into that. I am not religious, but I love religious
Yeah,
shit
same.
in fiction.
Yep.
So I thought the same thing about Drew Barrymore. I thought the iconic opening scene is like rife with this bizarre flirtatious energy as Drew banters with a creepy stranger on the phone despite having a boyfriend. She's like, I'm going to get a little Freudian with it. I'm sorry. She's like fondling knives.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Like, yeah.
That's true. She is.
Until things turn like intrusive, and like it's arguable by the film's meta commentary that Drew dies because of this sexual expression, later to be complicated and refuted. Like, there's like that knife as phallus symbolism. I think.
Well, also she is. I mean, you could argue that she's seen as like slutty because didn't she lie about having a boyfriend?
No, she has
no.
a boyfriend.
No, but, like,
earlier she says she doesn't. Yeah, that's right. That's
so
she's
like,
totally flirting with this.
It's like
total weirdo.
infidelity in a way. So more religious stuff, sins.
Yep.
Yeah,
like-
totally.
Yeah.
So,
But then like movie trivia too, since
Yes.
they're like their obsession with the movies and
Yeah.
like the the rules of the movies,
Right.
and she got some of those wrong.
yeah, so they follow that up. There's like after the murder happens and all this, the stars have a conversation in front of the school fountain about whether or not like a woman was capable of committing the murders that have captivated the town. You remember this conversation?
Yeah.
Yep.
Right? The murder is like a stand-in, I think, for sexual activity. Discussion of its dynamics, right? Like it's inconceivable for the boys to imagine a female as a destroyer.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, this
Yeah.
couldn't happen, right? It's because like the killing is like a penetration. It literally, I think they talk about hollowing out
Yeah, they
the
do.
victim.
Yeah.
And like in this community, and to be fair, American at large, women are expected not to pursue sexual satisfaction and rather be destroyed by the violence of male pleasure, right? So I think, it's just like this really weird coded, very easy to take as just like, oh, it's just a bunch of idiot teenagers. You know what I mean?
But that's true. Like it is like they're talking about the actual act as if it is erotic, and Rose McGowan is there trying to like be like, but women are killers too, feminism, and it's like, it's
They don't buy-
funny
they don't
in that
buy it.
moment, but they don't buy it. No,
And I think what it speaks to is like the perspective of the town, right? The town doesn't buy it,
Yeah.
because they're products of their environment, right? So Sydney's mother is called into question as the victim, hinting about her own agency in the sex that she's had with her accused rapist. Her own use of sexuality is used to suggest by Gail Tatum and eventually Sydney herself that she deserved her death, or at least some faults in it, which is pretty wild,
Yeah, when Sydney's like, oh, I realized things about my mom. It's like, okay, so you're sex shaming your mom now? Like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She really turns a bizarre corner on that. It's hard for me to imagine myself in those shoes, like turning that corner,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it speaks to like social pressure, right?
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah.
So the film's classic meta commentary scene with Jamie Kennedy,
Yes,
up in front
yes.
of, right? I think that scene really serves to like marry the themes of youth, moral decay, and female sexuality, right? Because he throws the rules out there, right? And what's rule number 1?
You don't have sex.
Yeah.
Don't have sex, right?
Gotta be a
And
virgin.
what's rule number 2?
Oh, I wrote it down.
Don't drink or do drugs.
Don't drink or
that's
do
it.
drugs,
Yeah.
which he explains is an extension of number 1, right? So it's like they're one and the same. It's about seeking
true.
pleasure and enjoyment, right? The scene is added some gravity as we watch Sydney break the cardinal rules as they're recited.
But then the killer breaks the last rule, which is I'll be right back. And one of the killers,
Right.
breaks that rule as a joke.
Right.
And we, we don't know it at that time. But
But it turns out that it's... And
Yeah.
do you feel that that's what condemns him in the end, is that he has broken those vital
interesting.
rules?
I did not think of that, but
Yeah.
that is actually interesting. Like it's no matter who says it, even if it's the killer, maybe then you die in the end. Oh, I really want to watch a bunch of slashers right now and see if that happens in any of them.
Right. So in the big reveal, it turns out that it's not the mindless moral depravity at the heart here, at the heart of evil here, despite what many characters are quick to express, but rather like a puritanical, misogynistic fear of women's sexuality. Right. After first claiming to not have a motive for being the killer, Billy quickly points to Sydney's mother as the reason, calling her, and I'm quoting here, a slutbag whore who showed her shit all over town like Sharon Stone. Right. So like very clearly, like. That language is like coded, like what he's acting on here is something to do with female sexuality. He blames Sydney's mom for the breakup of his nuclear family, much like the reactive adults accusing teen culture of doing the same early in the 20th century. The ultimate moral depravity of the youth in this movie is not the loose sex and drugs, but rather the outsized, destructive, conservative reaction to it, right? Like that's the real evil of this movie, I think,
Yeah.
right? And it's really not until the very end of it that I think we really see, which is, I think, kind of awesome,
No, it's true. Because, like, for the first half, it's sort of like, oh, they're just dumb teenagers. Like, yeah, there's some things that are bad, but you're like, well, those are the bullies in the bathroom. Or they're like, I don't know, you don't see that like, oh, all of them are kind of doing it's not just Stu and Billy. Like,
Yeah.
It's
a little bit everybody.
It's a little bit of
the
everybody.
monster is everybody. I
Yeah.
think that's something that actually even gets said in the movie at some point.
yeah, I think you might be right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and it's also, it's lent credibility, that idea that like Dewey can't figure out where the costume comes from because they're sold in
Yes.
every Halloween store, right?
Yes, and I never noticed it before, but it says the name of the costume on the bag. It's Father Death. I was like, does that mean? I mean, obviously it's like a Grim Reaper. I was like, maybe they couldn't use the words Grim Reaper. I don't know, but like it was interesting that it was like parental in a way.
Oh, that's interesting. Ooh, shit. I like that.
I don't know if I, fleshed that out anymore, but
That fits with my ideas. I like it.
Fits in with my plan.
I love it. All right, I have one last bit
All right,
for
let's
my
do it.
analysis. Thank you for bearing with me. I'm sorry, everybody.
Awesome.
also I just want to make a quick note
Yes.
to everyone listening. Correct me if I'm wrong, Harry. This was your first time watching it, right?
Oh, right.
Just based off how many notes, and I wrote like 3 things, and this was my first horror movie I ever watched.
So
it's like the opposite.
Yes, I watched it twice, but yes, they were my first 2 viewings of the movie. So the first one I watched and was scribbling some stuff, and then the second time around, and I only watched it again because Kat, my wife, wanted to watch all 6 with me.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
we started from the beginning. And I was like, oh, I was like watching the movie, being like, I was like, this is stupid. This is stupid. This is stupid. This is stupid. Oh, fuck. This is smart.
When I was like, I don't know, I was 11, I think, when I saw this, I was like, this is stupid the whole time, because I had never seen any horror movie in my entire life. So I didn't understand any of the references or the meta. I was just like, why are they stabbing each
Right,
other?
like, what are you
It's stupid.
talking about?
Yeah.
I think I was prejudiced from this movie from the get-go because I actually saw Scary Movie first.
Oh, yeah.
It really emphasized the stupidity. And, it's there, but it's also... It's on purpose, right? The stupidity of this movie is on purpose.
Yeah.
They're playing with genre here.
Yes.
And that's something that I think maybe Damon and Marlon Wayans just I think a lot of that movie is actually really funny, but they didn't get that, you know? Or they just ignored that,
Yeah.
So anyway, my final thought, right? The final perspective of the movie on this topic is solidified by Sydney's triumphant subversion of the rules of horror, as Randy described them, right? She has sex and yet survives anyway.
Yep.
As she shoots her murderous boyfriend, Sydney transcends its tropes, and literally and metaphorically, with the line "not in my movie," right? The movie now belongs to Sydney and not the sort of patriarchal environment that birthed the rest of the slasher genre, right?
Yeah.
Her ownership of the movie establishes that she will get to make the rules henceforth, where Scream tempts the viewer to interpret it as reinforcing traditional values concerning youth behavior, including women's sexuality. Its final impression is one of understanding that teenagers are teenagers who do the things that teenagers do, and the real danger to society is regressive ideology and reactionism. So
Totally.
there you go. And
Yeah.
and I feel like
that makes sense.
that's where you
Yeah,
landed too.
it is.
So it's like I just took a
Full
way
circle.
longer. Yeah.
Well, I've had a few more viewings, a few more years. But I also think what you just said speaks to what you said about Sydney's trauma arc. Her being not in my movie, I'm working through this,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Trauma on my own, and I'm doing it,
Yeah.
and I'm fighting back.
Yeah. I think so.
I think we should go around and rate the
Should
movie.
we rate? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kate, do you want to go first?
No. I mean, let me hear more about your system and your
Oh,
methodology.
okay. I guess that's true. We should.
I'm not ready for this yet.
So
I don't know.
It's 1 to 10. 1 being terrible, like you
Oh.
hated it, and 10
the worst movie you've ever seen.
Yeah, like trash. And to be fair, we all rate things differently. I do it opinion based, not if it's an actually good movie or not. Of
Well,
course.
there's always going to be some element of opinion in it, I think.
It's all subjective. And then 10 is like the best thing, like your
You're
new
going to
favorite
recommend
movie.
it to everybody.
Yeah, you're gonna
okay.
watch it all the time. So that's kind of, you could do 0.5s.
Oh,
So that's an option.
okay.
You can do any gradient you want.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit. You can be like 9.97.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like,
Yeah.
Okay. Well then, I think for me this movie is like a 7.5. I think it's really unique when it came, for its time that it came out, a really unique movie, a really interesting take on, that kind of culture, on, tropes of slasher films. I think it's pretty easy to watch, and it has a lot of sort of, interesting characters that are all like kind of well developed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would give it sort of I'm gonna stick with a little 7.5 on for the first one. Yeah.
Fair.
Because I think it's unique.
Safe.
It's-
I like it. Safe rating.
That's safe.
Safe.
Harry, what would you give it?
Look, I'm gonna give it like a 9.
Ooh,
I think that that's the highest rating I've given anything.
It's the highest you've given any movie.
I think that I might have just, convinced myself of this with my excessive analysis, but like, I really do think that it's, my wife laughs at me for this. I do think that it's kind of a cinematic masterpiece. Like, I'm going to say it. Like, I'm saying the words, right? All of the cheesy, horror tropey elements, they're there on purpose. Wes Craven knows what he's doing as a filmmaker. And I just think that there's a lot to dig into in this movie, for a movie that's really on the surface very unassuming. It's trying to tell you that it's stupid and shallow, but I really don't think it is. So yeah, I'm super into it. I don't even like slashers.
That's so interesting.
Well, can I just interject really quick
Yeah.
with that? Because I'm pretty sure the writer or one of the writers was also a writer on Dawson's Creek.
Oh, maybe.
And so I kept thinking the whole time about how this era, there was like all this stuff being pushed out that was like young people talking to each other, like in a mature,
Yes.
sort of grown up way. Which I think helps,
Yeah,
like
totally.
the writing, the way they speak to each
Yes.
other, it's smart.
Yeah.
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 Even if it's shticky sometimes.
No, but it is, the banter's the way that like adults might talk, and it's quick too.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm actually gonna give it the same rating, the 7.5.
right.
I really like Scream. I think that like it's really smart. I feel like it's one of the best meta horror movies because you can watch it and it is a scary, legitimate movie with interesting characters, and the meta parts are also interesting, and there's humor, but it's not just humor.
Yeah.
Where I feel like some of those movies end up just being humor, but I don't give it more. I don't give it. Wow. Okay. I need like sleep. It's not above a 7.5 because it's a slasher. Visually, it doesn't do much for me. So,
Got you.
And I'm not going to get weird artsy shit from a slasher. I take that back. Some of them do, but
You don't.
But-
Can I push back on that for just a
Yeah.
second? You don't think that there's like something in the like? I agree. It's not a visually appealing movie very much, with a few rare exceptional moments, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like that. It looks like a facade. It looks like a set.
oh yeah, and I
And-
think it's meant to look like that.
Exactly.
But that to me,
That doesn't do it for
no.
me. What about the moment, visual shot here, what about the moment where it's like just about where Jamie Kennedy gets murdered? He's lying on the couch watching Jamie Lee Curtis on screen, and he's shouting, "Jamie, turn around."
Oh, yeah, no.
And
Oh,
Ghostface
yeah.
is right behind him, and his fucking name
Yeah.
is Jamie, and like,
Oh, I didn't even get
come on.
Well, I think that narratively and dialogue wise and framing wise, that's really interesting. But
It's not a shot
visually.
thing for things.
Exactly.
Okay. I
Yeah.
got you.
Yeah.
But I do think it is kind of one of those things that you see and you're like, I get it. And then somebody like says something else and you're like, whoa, I get that. I get more now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
like
you can
all the
really
things you
dig in.
said, I was like, oh.
Yeah, that is kind of a cool scene. And it does have a little jump factor for even for a slasher where you're like, it's kind of predictable. There's like a couple where it's, you know, a little, it's kind of,
Couple
gruesome.
moments.
Yeah.
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 The garage door was a real shocker to me at that.
Yes.
My first viewing as like a
Yes.
young person.
Oh, I can't see that scene without laughing at it. It's like so outrageous.
Yeah.
It's so
Ridiculous.
ridiculous.
Because she definitely could have gotten through there.
Well, there's so much. You know, there's honestly so much. This is probably gonna get cut. There's not all this, but what I'm about to like send us down here.
No, don't cut
there's
it then.
so much. There's so much slapstick in this movie too, isn't there? Like, isn't it funny when Sydney is being chased by Ghostface and she like opens a door in his face and he just full eats it on the ground? Like, isn't that kind
There's
of
a moment where
funny?
he like rolls over or like tumbles over her too. Yeah.
And like, it's just he's such an anti Michael Myers.
He is.
Yeah.
He's like,
you know,
the
like
clumsy, like
It's so stupid.
yeah.
And I think in the new ones they've tried to make him a little more
I know.
superhuman.
We can't go into it yet.
I know. Damn it. God damn it.
On that note,
Should we talk hottest?
yes.
All right,
let's
let's
do
go.
it.
I'm not gonna be the first.
Oh no, I think the guest.
I think Kate has to be first.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to be first. I can tell in her face.
Thinking, because I could go and I didn't know this was going to be a question. So,
I mean, I know mine.
oh,
too.
you guys both. Okay, cool. So no pressure. I gotta say, Drew Barrymore for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah,
hot in this
She's
movie.
just
Like, what is it about that just like it's just the like she's just like the young Drew Barrymore.
yeah.
iconic.
That era of Drew Barrymore was just so like fancy free. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know how else to describe it. She was just like bubbly and cute and poppy and just
Yeah.
like, you know,
Yeah,
Yeah,
easy to like.
totally.
that's
Yeah.
very true.
I'll go next. As a child of the '90s, it's hard for me to not pick Monica. Like I gotta pick
Interesting.
Monica.
Wow.
I do.
I like that it's you're referring to her by her friend's name.
Yeah, because that's who she is. She's Monica. Yeah.
Oh my god, that's fantastic. Why? And why
Because,
specifically
like-
in this movie?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think there's anything particularly about her in. She's terrible in this movie. I do like terrible characters. I think I just have been the image has been like imprinted in my brain as like a young developing adolescent. You know what I mean? Like
Same
of
with
friends.
Drew for me.
Yeah. Like it just can't be undone.
I get that. I mean, this was my first horror movie, and so I think it's spurred my crush
Wait.
of Rose McGowan.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So this was your first horror
Yeah,
movie?
that's why I didn't get any of it. And I thought it was stupid.
Oh, shit. Did I miss that in our earlier
yeah.
conversation?
We totally talked about that.
I'm so
Or
sorry.
I mentioned it. Yeah.
I must have missed that. So it's your first horror movie. It's the first time I've seen this. This is a
yeah.
whole
Yeah.
podcast of first. Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad said you could rent whatever you want at the video store, and I said,
Wow.
"Cool, I want to see that." And I watched it alone in their downstairs area, and I was like, "This is freaking me out," but also this is stupid. But yeah, Rose McGowan totally did it for me.
Oh,
Super
yeah.
hot.
Yeah,
All right.
definitely
There
agree.
you have it. We're going to do another episode.
Yes.
We're going to talk about
Yep.
Screams 5 and 6.
Yep.
We've all seen them?
Yes.
I've seen 6, not 5 yet.
Okay.
I saw 5 and 6 in the theater, and I think that's the only time I might have seen 6 twice.
Yeah. I'll be interested to see what of this conversation we can pull into those movies too, like thematically, analytically.
Yeah, what's changed?
Opinion-wise, yeah.
Yeah. To see what, because what years did the new ones come out?
22 and 23, I think.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. It's a
Very recent.
big difference. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know what the new generation likes. So
Are
we'll
the
see.
kids still
fucked up
being fucked up? Yeah, are they
or
fucked
being
up
fucked up? Yeah,
by the conservative adults? I don't know.
we'll find out.
Anyway. Kate, give us a soundbite to close us out.
Yeah.
Just say anything. I'm going to put you right on the spot.
Bye.
Perfect. And cut and